Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today we are going to be exploring Planet NYARR, which is Mooncat's latest collection. As you can see, this is a massive 9-piece lineup in these vibrant, mixed finish kind of formulas, including shimmers, glitters, magnetics, and 3 glow-in-the-dark shades. So without further ado, let me just show you the swatches. First up, let's take a look at the little travel brochure that comes when you buy the full collection. As far as I know, this is the only limited edition aspect of the launch. None of the polishes are limited edition. But yeah, like I said, you can't really buy this little brochure. You only get it if you buy the whole collection. And as we can see, it's just filled with some of the original artwork. I don't remember the artist that Mooncat partnered with, but I appreciate them commissioning an actual artist and not going with AI. It's pretty cute. It has blurbs with the polish names of the collection, but I almost wish there were swatches included as well, though I guess technically that wouldn't really fit with the travel brochure aspect. Now onto the polishes. We're starting with Nyarrian Nights, which is a magnetic polish that has a purple base filled with a blue shimmer, and the magnetic pigment is a multi-chrome, so it shifts from pink to red to orange in extreme lighting. This has a really flawless formula, super nicely pigmented, as you can see from the first coat. There is a little bit of that sheerness, but I found it opaque enough for me in just the 2 coats, though if your nails are longer or if you prefer doing even thinner coats, you might need a third just to make it fully opaque. But it has a nice deep base, and I love how the shimmer and the magnetic pigment is nicely contrasted against it as well. Here in extreme lighting, you could see a little bit more of that shift to orange, but predominantly it is this sort of hot pinky red kind of color, which I really love. I think the color contrasts are just so stunning no matter how you magnetize it. Personally, velvet is always going to be my favorite, but the glass bead is also really cool. Then we have Kattermanjaro, which is described as a neon hot pink filled with a subtle pink shimmer, and this is one of the 3 glow-in-the-dark shades that has a peach glow in the dark. I would describe this as having an almost crully kind of formula. As you can see here on the first coat, I again have really nice coverage. There's a decent amount of pigmentation. It's very even and self-leveling. There is just that touch of sheerness, but I found it pretty opaque for me on just the 2 coats. I think if you do look close enough, you can see a little hint of nail line, but it's just not enough for me to do 3. And as expected, I love this one. You know, I'm a certified pink lover, but unfortunately, this one kind of had a disappointing glow-in-the-dark effect. It looks really white on camera. In real life, I could see a little bit of that peachy color, and I think you could sort of see a streak of it down the center of my nail. But to be fair, Mooncat does suggest doing 3 coats for the best and strongest peachy glow. Up next we have Blueberries Jam, which is described as a magenta pink magnetic, revealing a blue base jam-packed with flakies and reflective glitters. Personally, I would say the base in this one is almost gray leaning, as you can see from the initial coat here. It's a little bit light, kind of splotchy, which is expected with these very densely packed polishes, especially with flakes. I find that they're not always self-leveling, so you kind of need to do some dabbing smoothing and manipulation to get the most even coverage. Maybe even sponging on the coat would also make it easier, but that's assuming you're not going to magnetize it. But as far as the magnetic aspect goes, it was really reactive, so that's definitely a plus. And similar to the other shades, I found this to be mainly opaque on the two coats. I think the base is deep enough and the flakies are super packed that it just helps to obscure any visible nail line. And to me, it looks like there's only this purpley pink reflective glitter in there, almost matching the color of the magnetic shimmer. So it is a little on the subtle side, not super gritty, but this is definitely one that I would recommend a peel off base coat for and a smoothing top coat just because it's so packed with the flakes. I wasn't super crazy about this one, but I really loved it in the velvet style. Then we have Whiskered Willows, which is described as a lavender glitter jam-packed with multicolor reflective glitter and holographic glitter. This one is absolutely stunning. I just love glitter bomb polishes, and I feel like it's been years since Mooncat gave us some, so I was very excited for this one and the other in the collection. And this one is just so pretty. I love the lavender color. It's more of that blue toned sort of purple. Really great formula as well. As you saw on the first coat, it is densely packed with the glitters, but still really smooth and easy to apply. And I would say it's a solid 2-coater. It's just really full coverage. And in a second, you'll see it under flash to show off that glorious sparkle. It was just so mesmerizing. Then we have Swim My Dolphins, which is just described as a cyan shimmer, which I think is fair. I mean, the shimmer itself is that minty green, aqua blue sort of shade, but the base is almost like this light indigo kind of color. I feel like in the bottle it does look predominantly blue, but if you look close enough, the actual base, like along the edges or even along the stem of the brush, has this slight purple color to it. So I think it provides a really nice depth to the shimmer. It is super gorgeous, super glowy, another smooth, easy formula that I personally left in just the 2 coats, even though again you can see a little bit of nail line. Doing a third would help make it more fully opaque. And here in extreme lighting, you can see how the shimmer shifts to a deeper blue, and it's just so pretty. The third magnetic in the collection is called Electromagnetic Furball, and this one is described as a magenta pink multichrome magnetic lacquer that reveals a base jam-packed with bronze flakes and multicolored reflective glitter. So as you can see, this one has the most sheer and jelly leaning formula of the magnetic polishes, and similar to Blueberry's Jam, I feel like the base itself is a really dark gray, if not just black kind of shade. So depending on your coverage and application, I would say this is another 2 to 3 coater. Probably better to do 3 thinner coats. I just happen to do a thicker second coat as seen here, so you can barely see my nail line. It looks pretty full coverage overall just because the base is a lot darker. And here in more extreme lighting, you can see that shift going from the purple to sort of coppery gold color in extreme lighting. Here under flash, you can see more of that sparkle from the reflective glitter, which which I think is only this darker blue sort of shade, so it's a nice little pop of color. But yeah, the magnetic shimmer alone is already very shifty. It's a cool polish. I like the elements overall. I just wish the base was a little more pigmented. Up next we have the Zoomies, and this is described as a sheer light green that also has a green glow-in-the-dark effect. This has a super finely milled shimmer that almost gives it a pearlescent kind of glow. You can see it from the first coat here. It is decently pigmented. It almost has like a crelly base. It's not super sheer that it's ghostly, where it could be used as a topper. At least I personally wouldn't use this as a topper. So yeah, it just has that typical sheer but buildable shimmer kind of formula. I think it looks pretty nice and passable on the two coats here, but I did have this sort of streaky spot on the left side of my nail, so I did end up doing a third coat for this one. But again, because I feel like this is a slightly pearlescent shade, some of the brush strokes kind of emphasize the streakiness, so you'll notice depending on the angle, it doesn't look so bad, but I would say just be mindful of your application. This had a really strong and even glow-in-the-dark effect, which I think is pretty common for the green shades at least. The other glitter bomb is called Litterbox, which, first of all, why was it not called Glitterbox? I feel like that's such a missed opportunity, but this one is described as a baby pink glitter jam-packed with holographic and reflective glitter. So basically the pink sister polish to Whiskered Willows, where this is a very light but cool toned pink, while Whiskered Willows was like a cool toned purple. So as expected, this had the same exact formula, really great coverage on the first coat, super densely packed, but very easy to work with. I didn't really have to do any dabbing or manipulation to sort of get the glitters where I wanted them to cover up any bald spots. I feel like I just had really great coverage on the two coats. Unsurprisingly, this is another favorite. I just love the glitter and sparkle and the color. And rounding out the collection is Light of Your Ninth Life, which is described as an orange crelly with a green shimmer that glows orange in the dark. This had a fantastic formula, very much on the buildable, crelly leaning side. So you can see the first coat here just provides really great coverage. It's super even and just a tiny bit sheer, but I found it pretty much opaque enough for me on the two coats where I could barely see my nail line unless it's like in more extreme angles of lighting, but you might want a third depending on your nail length and application. And yeah, I actually thought the color on this was really cute. I especially love the shade of orange that this is, but kind of similar to Kattermanjaro, I feel like the glow in the dark effect was a little underwhelming. I just didn't find it as even coverage even with the three coats, but the silver lining is that I did notice this actually had that orange kind of glow, and it did look more orange in real life. Now for comparisons, we're starting with Nyarrian Nights, and the closest shades that I had to this were Ethereal's Midsummer Eve and Sassy Sauce's A Decade of Decadence, which both have this blue shimmer in the background with a contrasting pink or red magnetic shimmer. The Ethereal is more of a lighter pink with a more blue or less purple background, while the Sassy Sauce is more of a fiery shimmer with a deeper black base, but the shimmer is still blue, so they're kind of different. Some other shades that I thought would be similar to the base of Nyarrian Nights included House of Hades, which is a glowy blue micro flaky shimmer kind of formula, and I also pulled out Kathleen & Co.'s Harvester of Sorrow, which is a little bit more purple leaning because the House of Hades is just more blue. So Harvester of Sorrow is pretty close. It's obviously missing the magnetic pigment, so if you happen to have a pink magnetic topper in your collection, you can try to recreate the vibe. Sadly, the one that I have is unreleased, so I can't really share details right now, but it is a little too light and kind of missing that more fiery color that Nyarrian Nights has, so then I added a coat of Crack's Scorchy on top, which did help a bit, but I feel like it's not as dramatic, or maybe the color shifts are a little different. And unfortunately, I don't have Emily DeMolly's Sunset Over the Bay. I did just order it, so it should be coming in the mail soon, so I will do a little short video comparing these side by side, but I would imagine these are the closest to being dupes, probably also similar to Penelope Lou's Butterfly Wings. Then for Kattermanjaro, here it is next to Mooncat's Merkitten and Sakura's Serenade, which I'll have on a swatch stick because I was running warm and I wanted to show the cold state of the bottle, which is the deeper hot pink. And I would say that one is more of a warm toned pink, while Merkitten is a much cooler toned pink. To me, Kattermanjaro looks cooler toned, but it's also more neon and a little lighter or more white based in color. So either way, it doesn't really compare. For some neon pinks, I have Crack's Cheeky Bottoms, which is just a cream. It doesn't have any shimmer in it, but I do also still have a swatch stick of Sandals Required, which does have a shimmer in it. Unfortunately though, I think both of those are a little bit warmer toned compared to Kattermanjaro, so they still don't compare. So for some cooler toned neon pinks, I pulled out Cirque's Flamingo from the California Dreamin' collection, which I think mine is starting to fade, or it has been fading. It just looks a little bit lighter than I remember it being. And then I pulled out Polish for Days Barbie on the Boardwalk, which was from a previous Polish pickup. They both have stronger, more glowy shimmers, but the Mooncat is kind of an in-between of these two colors, just still more vibrant. Then I wanted to show this next to Moonlight Lullaby because that has a white glow-in-the-dark effect, which if you remember from my swatch before, Kattermanjaro looked almost white, but here you can actually see that more peachy color. I mean, to me, it just kind of looks orange. It's sort of missing the warmth that I saw from the swatch photo. And of course, I also have to show it next to Light of Your Ninth Life, since that one has an orange glow-in-the-dark effect. So I thought these were going to be much closer, but there is a subtle difference. Here you can see a little bit more of that peachy color for Kattermanjaro, but in real life, it just looks orange to me, while the other shade, Light of Your Ninth Life, looks more yellowy. For Blueberries Jam, I did want to show this next to Maelstrom and When Hell Freezes Over, which are these iridescent flaky bomb polishes, and I layered a pink magnetic topper to sort of recreate the vibe, but Maelstrom has much more green flakes, and When Hell Freezes Over is a lot more blue in its base, and the flakes are a little bit harder to read. And I also wanted to try this out because I was inspired by a post I saw on Reddit where somebody used port 6666 and then applied the flakies on the black spots. So there is like a little bare spot where the magnetic stripe is going to be, but it's a pretty solid recreation attempt. The biggest difference is that port 6666 has a much deeper, more opaque black base, but the magnetic shimmer going from purple to pink to copper is exactly the same. And here I tried it with some Holo Taco flakies as well. I did also want to show this next to Glitch's Labradorite dust, which is another flaky bomb that I thought had a similar vibe to Blueberry's Jam when unmagnetized, mainly for the blue iridescent flakes and the purple base. The Glitch though has a few other colored flakes like pink and purple, and it has an actual purple base compared to Blueberry's Jam being more of that dark gray charcoal. I can also kind of see how Blueberry's Jam is similar to Supervillain. That one is just a multi-chrome flake polish that has the same blue and purpley pink colorway, so they're both very shifty, just in different ways. We, of course, are looking at Whiskered Willows next to Sealed with a Hiss, which was recently retired. It has a similar blue-toned purple micro glitter, but it also has a blue shimmer running throughout, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't have reflective glitter, so Whiskered Willows has a more silvery look to it. For Holo Taco glitters, I pulled out Glitch and Glam as well as Lo-Fi Lavender. Glitch and Glam is more of a warmer toned purple shade, so Lo-Fi Lavender is a bit closer, but it is just a shade or two darker, which you can kind of see in the base. And both of the Holo Taco glitters also feature a square glitter in there, so it looks a little bit more chunky and varied. And neither of those have reflective glitters, but that's easy enough to add. Then from ILNP, I first pulled out Remix from their Euphoric collection this past summer, which has a really sparkly, flaky kind of look, but it's in a more warmer toned, purpley pink base color. So the more blue toned purple color with this icy silver flash to it reminded me more of ILNP's Love Spell from a previous winter collection. That one's just a metallic, or maybe it also has a dainty hollow sparkle in there, but it's just missing that glitter quality. So I thought to add a layer of Holo Taco's Rainbow Snow, but I think I did a little too thick of a coat because it just looks really silver now and I lost the purple base. And lastly, Whiskered Willows reminded me of an in-between or a combination of KB Shimmer's Blossom Job, which is a blue and purple reflective glitter in a darker purple base, as well as Cupcake Polish's Believe, which is that lighter blue-toned lavender holographic micro glitter formula. So I would definitely say that one is the closest to being a dupe to Whiskered Willows, though again it is missing the reflective glitter aspect. And here it is under flash just so you can better see the color combination with the KB Shimmer. I know it might be kind of hard to see because the KB is exclusively packed with the reflectives, but they do both have the silver and magenta colors. Then for Swim My Dolphins, I pulled out Mooncat's Mercury's Tears and Gamma Ray Blaster, which was retired a couple of years ago, I think. These are both very different though. Mercury's Tears has more of a pink shimmer in a cobalt base, and Gamma Ray Blaster has a deeper blue base with a green shimmer. So I personally don't think Swim My Dolphins is like the 2.0 or revamped version of a Gamma Ray Blaster. I thought this also reminded me of a couple of electric blues, so I pulled out Live Love Polish's Confetti Dreams, which is sort of a shimmer glitter kind of finish, and also Holo Taco's Sky Lounge, which is more of a micro metallic flaky finish. Both of these though are much more noticeably blue, while Swim My Dolphins again has that slightly more indigo leaning base. From ILNP, I thought the closest blues were Blue Fizz from the Pop collection, which is a magnetic, but we're leaving it unmagnetized, and also Flow State from the Euphoric collection. I would say these two are a little bit more cerulean leaning in color and also more opaque. So for purple bases with this cyan kind of shimmer, I then pulled out Cirque's Night Fever and Fauve's Solo Exhibitionist. But both of these are a little bit too purple. Hopefully you can see it that Swim My Dolphins is like a little bit more indigo, periwinkle, maybe just more blue toned than the other two. But yeah, they are not dupes. Next, for Electromagnetic Furball, I thought the closest magnetics that I had to this were port 6666 and Holo Taco's Queen's Curse. In the bottle, it looks like Queen's Curse is going to be much closer because the shimmer in port looks a little cooler toned, but on the nail, it does still have that sort of pinky color to it. Either way, both of them are missing the copper flakes, but that's pretty easy to add with ILNP's Compass, which is a copper metallic flake topper, so it looks pretty identical to the background flakes in Electromagnetic Furball. The main difference is that one is more sheer. From ILNP, I immediately thought of using Misfit, which has a reddish copper background shimmer and a pink magnetic shimmer, but layering it over black to get that deeper base. And it's not really that close, like you kind of get the vibe, but it's not a solid recreation. Then for the Zoomies, I first pulled out Ribbit Ribbit just to show you a light green shimmer comparison. It's just a totally different shade of green. When I first saw the swatches of the Zoomies, I thought it looked kind of similar to Holo Taco's Alien Infatuation, but as you can see, they are super different. The shade of green that the Zoomies is definitely very blue toned, so it actually looked a lot closer, at least to me, to shades like Paradise Found or even Jump Jump Bug, but that one is a bit darker, so if anything, I would say they look more similar in the bottle. I think the Zoomies has a more whitened look to it. So then I thought to show this next to Pixie Stick and Green-Eyed Monster, which are white-based jelly crelly polishes with these green shimmers. The shimmer is most similar to Pixie Stick in terms of that super glowy look. I would say it's just more finely milled in the Zoomies, again having a more pearlescent look, while Green-Eyed Monster is a little bit more subtle, but the base in that one I would say is slightly closer to the Zoomies, just being slightly more buildable, almost crelly leaning, while Pixie Stick is just a lot more sheer. Green-Eyed Monster is also another green glow-in-the-dark shade, so I decided to re-swatch just those two, which I'm glad I did because at first I was gonna say they're basically the same. They're both green glow-in-the-darks, but Green-Eyed Monster is a lot stronger. For another sheer shimmery green, I pulled out Crack's Merk from a previous Hella Handmade shop. I feel like the cyan shimmer is pretty similar, but the base of Merk is a lot more sheer. As you can see, it can like almost pass as a topper, but if you do build it up, it kind of has this more taupey gray color. And lastly, I actually think the Zoomies is probably closest to shades like Cirque's Honeydew or Sweet Mint as far as like that minty color goes. Sweet Mint is a very whitened shade as well, so I feel like the base is just really similar, while Honeydew is a little bit more saturated in its color. And to sort of recreate the vibe, I then did a coat of Pixie Stick on top, since again it has pretty much the same greenish intense glow, just a little bit more of a larger shimmer particle, but honestly it's pretty close enough. Then for Litterbox, I of course am showing this next to Serpent's Tongue, which is more of a warm toned purple shade. I wouldn't really call it a pink necessarily. And it also has a green shimmer as well. This one, by the way, was really similar to Holo Taco's Glamethyst, but with a less stronger green shimmer. And since I don't have that one anymore, I figured I could also show Holo Taco's Menchie the Cat, which is a baby pink micro glitter that's a little bit of a warmer toned pink. I also wanted to see this next to Holo Taco's Control Cutie, which was from the Pixel Perfect collection. That one's a slightly deeper pink than Menchie the Cat, but it's still a little too warm and also more chunky in its glitter formula. So then I thought to show it next to Sparkling Spurs, which is a crushed holo, but I feel like the color is kind of close. Maybe it's a bit darker. And the last Holo Taco I have is Pretty Privilege, which was from the Valentine's Day collection. So it's a baby pink magnetic, but again, slightly warmer toned in comparison. And I also have Cupcake Polish's Wish, which is a similar micro glitter formula, but that one's just a little too bright. Then from ILNP, I'm bringing back out Remix and also Halo from the Euphoric collection. Remix, as I mentioned before though, is like a warm toned purple, so that's just a little darker than Litterbox, while Halo is another warmer toned pink. And lastly, for Light of Your Ninth Life, I first pulled out Mooncat's Poems for a Harvest Moon and Flight of the Monarchs, which are the closest oranges that they have, but Poems is a much deeper pumpkin orange with a pink shimmer, while Flight of the Monarchs has a purple base with a coppery orange shimmer. I actually thought the shade of orange was really similar to Fauve's Radiance, which I recently shared. That one is a thermal and solar, but in the cold state, it does have this warm, orangey, peachy color. But I also thought it would be really close to Cuticula's Candy Core, which again has this warm orange base color with a green shimmer. I was gonna say the shimmers look nearly identical, and they do head on, but Cuticula does have more of this color shift to it, so in extreme light it does transition to this blue color, which I don't really see in the Mooncat. Not to mention Candy Core is a bit deeper. The closest orange shimmer that ILNP has is Peach Ring, but that one's a bit more of a tangerine orange kind of shade with an orange shimmer. There's not really like a green color in it. And I don't know how well you saw, but Cirque Fuyū or Sherbet Jelly looks like a near color dupe, at least in the bottle, to the base of the Mooncat. On the nail, I think the Cirque is a little deeper. There's maybe more of this vibrant kind of aspect to the Mooncat shade, not to mention obviously it has shimmer, so I decided to do a layer of Pixie Stick to kind of add that greenish glow, but it ended up looking a little bit more minty. So to get some of that warmth back, I decided to recreate it again, but using Mooncat's Mariah's Melody instead, which is a pastel yellow shimmer. I feel like this is definitely closer at recreating the vibe, but again, the Mooncat has a little bit more of this vibrant orange base. And finally, for reference, I did want to show a photo of Crack's Hazy Days from Hella Handmade this month. I could see how in some photos it might look really, really similar. Maybe the Cracked is a little bit warmer, having this coral undertone, but in other photos it does look a lot darker, so overall I would not call these dupes. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Mooncat's Planet NYARR collection. First off, I want to give a big thank you to everybody for being so patient. I was literally working at light speed to get this video up. For those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, I was posting on my stories about how I'm still waiting for my package, sadly, on the launch day, but I did end up getting it around 1 p.m. and the rest of Friday was just a blur while I worked on getting this video out to you, getting all the comparisons and everything. It's already a lot with just having 3 magnetics in the collection, especially with all the comparisons and whatnot. So yeah, I just want to thank you all for your patience. I really do hope that you like and hype the video if you do appreciate that. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think of this collection, because while I've only had it for a couple of hours now and it's still very much like a first impression kind of thing, I do really enjoy them. I mean, when I first saw like the creative brief and everything, I thought it was so fun that Mooncat was doing this really colorful, maybe not neon, but just a super vibrant intergalactic theme. Even though as a seasonal wearer, you know, I'm not going to be reaching for some of these brighter shades just yet. I feel like I have seen some people say that they could work as late summer going into like Halloween vibes. So you know, I see the potential there, but it's not like Mooncat does these seasonally appropriate collections anyway. It's like rare that that happens. So I do always appreciate that they just are doing their own thing. So yeah, overall, it's a cute theme and lineup. And even though they're not groundbreaking necessarily, I thought it's still pretty satisfying just to see how well curated they are as a lineup. But let me know what you think and whether you picked up the whole set or picked up 1 or 2, or if you were waiting for my video or just other people's videos to see the comparisons. I'd love to hear about it down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!